It is 9:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, Deborah.
Certainly. Walker.
Here.
Bentley.
Yes.
Bollinger.
Here.
Dowling is not here yet. Cooler is excused. Register here. And Schaub is excused.
Okay, there is no report to approve member forum.
There are no member forum speakers.
Okay. Just a couple announcements. I think this is such an exciting time, really, when you think about a year ago, we started this process. And here we are with initiatives that are coming to life. They're not there yet, but thanks to Ann's great leadership, they keep moving along. And thank you, Ann, for all of that. But also know that all of your contributions have led to some real progress here in terms of what we were wondering was appropriate going forward. And here we are. So today's mission is really to provide some feedback on where Ann is so far, Ann and Javier, and a future person, hopefully. And so we're kind of a focus group today on what Ann is up to. So
Feedback.
So with that, Ann, you want to give us?
Sure. Let's start by looking at what we're doing with rossmore.com. So just as a
Good morning. Good morning, Kevin.
Hello. Hello. I'll need to drop off at 10 for my staff meeting, but be
Okay.
here for half hour.
All right. Sorry.
No worries. All right, so we're gonna start by talking about the redesign for rossmore.com. Just a reminder, this is the one that's our marketing website. So it is focused on the prospective residents and the adult children. So we went through a selection process to find a web designer. We did have 5 viable candidates. We brought it down to 3, and a working group of our folks, Kathleen, Mike, Javier and myself, we met to go through the proposals, and we selected Patient 10X. They're a local company here in Walnut Creek. So we really like the fact that they already understood who we are and our intended audience. And they also really had a good understanding of why we needed to rebrand. I'll explain in a moment how they do that. So they gave us a really good detailed breakdown of what the project was going to look like and how they were going to manage it, as well as the design concept and the deliverables that we'll get at the end. Also like the fact that they gave us a visual representation of what they thought our site could look like. What you see off to the side was sort of their initial vision. And again, it encompasses a lot of things we talked about. Our brand colors, those bright, vibrant photos, really kind of puts a face on Rossmore. And they analyzed where our site fell short. So this was a little humbling because they picked it apart really well, but they did touch on a lot of things that we had already, as a group, we knew were the mistakes and the problems with the website. So it kind of validated a lot of what we had talked about. And again, that really made me feel comfortable with this is a company that already really kind of understands what our needs are, as well as where we went wrong in the past so that we don't repeat ourselves in that end. So when we looked at their plan for a strategic redesign, 2 things popped out right away. And that's the simplified structure and also the visual first content, which again, if you remember, were task force priorities. We felt like this website had to have those. And so those are some of those key improvements that this web designer thinks would work for us as well. We also talked about how we have a website that doesn't have a call to action. And what I liked about Patient 10X is that they created this workflow chart to show us how you get to those calls of action. So everything is about trying to get the user to come to the website and want to be ready to connect with us. When they are ready to connect with us, we will eventually then make that connection with the broker. But if they're not, there's different avenues that they can go down that hopefully, again, will bring them back to wanting to be here in Rossmore and tour and hopefully eventually buy. So again, we're looking at building those direct users to make a connection and also then ultimately contacting a broker. So the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, this is what's called a site architecture. So this kind of shows you what they're envisioning as the sections and then what the pages would be. So right off the bat, you're gonna see two that I'm like, uh-oh, we still need consultation time because they don't fully understand us. They don't understand we are not the ones who schedule the visits. We are not the ones who do the approval process. So we need to still work with patient 10X a little bit to get them to understand exactly how Rossmore works. I'm not surprised they're confused because again, if you went on our website, you might think this as well. So that's again why we're doing this. So this screen gives you an idea. We did not ask for this. We did not ask for them to go and kind of build out what the website should look like, but they did, so that we could have an understanding that they had an understanding of what that vision is supposed to be. So we were really impressed by that. That was really kind of the big selling point. Now, the one thing that, while we liked Patient 10X for a lot, they were very pricey for their media end. So that's the photos and the videos. So we did take different bids for this and we selected a different company. We decided to go with Sam Bennett, also local. He's out of Concord, does photography and does video. And what I liked about Sam Bennett's company is when they gave us a list of deliverables, it was 2.5 pages long where everybody else was 1. So I'm like, less money, and we're going to end up with more. We've already done intake meetings with both the website designer and the media company. And I have to say, right off the bat, we had gotten some suggestions from the web designer that I took to Sam Bennett's team. And he's like, this is great. And he's pulled together this itinerary. We have a 3-day on-site shoot, and he's pulled together an itinerary that's insane. I mean, we go from like 7 in the morning until 9 at night. He's got a team of 5 people and we're hitting everything. When we're done, you will be able to ask me for a photo of anything and I can pretty much guarantee I'll have it. So they're an impressive group, but it's also a very, very ambitious timeline. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of where we are. This month is our discovery and strategy stage. We're going to move on in October. October is our big month where we're going to really talk about what that brand and design needs to look like. And then the concept design is going to come in the middle of the month. And then at the late month, that's when we're doing our on-site visits. And we're going to get all of those media elements pulled together and actually start building out our templates. In early November, we'll be working on the copywriting and the brand storytelling. In late November, that's when we'll set up the platform. We're going to develop our theme. This is when our content management system will get integrated, and we need to add in those ad positions. If you'll remember, we have 50,000 in revenue right now that's tied on the digital side. Those ad positions have to be built because we want to at least maintain that revenue coming in. And we're not going to have a full website to really turn over until the spring. And then in December, we'll get all of the visuals delivered and integrated. That's when we're going to work on search engine optimization. So that's making sure Google can find us and find us fast. We'll do our final configurations, and then my favorite one, security. We want to make sure that this site is nice and secure. In January, we will start site testing. So this will include a group of residents. My suggestion would be, you guys have all been a part of this. I would suggest that the marketing task force be a part of that test group. But we also want to be sure we're hitting our different demographics, all the way up to somebody who really doesn't use a computer, to be sure that we've hit all the different touch points. We will also start staff training in January so that we can launch in February. So that'll be our go live. And we will do a meeting with our website designer to make sure that we're optimized for that post-launch, that we're doing all the things we were expecting to be doing at that point. In March, we will start our big marketing push for the websites. And then in April/May, that's when we're really going to get our digital content creator, if it's approved by the board, up and running and trained, and then really start the discussion for how can we make digital revenue out of this website. So as you'll see, it's an incredibly ambitious timeline. I know Kevin's got a question.
Thanks, Ann, for all your information. I was talking to a computer club mentor the other day, and he said he runs into a lot of residents who only have a smartphone, so they do not have a laptop.
Yes.
or a tablet. So that's something you may be thinking about when you're designing.
That is built in. That was a requirement of anyone who's our web designer. It has to be responsive across all devices. So it will be whatever is built for the laptop will also be responsive for tablets and for smartphones. And believe it or not, this was not one that I even thought of. They do it for the watches as well. I have no idea how you make it show up on the watch, but it'll be fun to see what that looks like.
Is that gonna be like an app? You know, we have an app insignia on our phone where we can just download
Right.
it and then tap on it to get the information quickly?
Yeah, so you will have what's called a bookmarking feature. So you could bookmark it so that it would save it to your desktop, but you would have to do that for yourself. It's not an actual app. It's just a bookmark. So it is still going to take you to the native website. There is a app end that'll be with My Rossmore, but not with Rossmore.com.
So if I've already bookmarked the current, will it roll over?
Yes.
Okay.
We are not changing Rossmore.com. It stays. What'll happen is it'll be late at night. We'll warn everybody that we're doing this. It'll come late at night. We will basically take the site down at like 10 and bring it back up around 5. That's also ambitious. Oftentimes it takes a little longer than that. So we'll warn everybody that, you know, you may be without the website till closer to 8 o'clock in the morning. So that is going to happen. But that'll be in around that February launch timeframe.
And one other question, in the site testing in January.
Yes.
With residents, do you have an idea of how big of a group that has to be?
So
for
that
you to
is,
make
yeah,
it?
that's one of the questions I have on the list for our web designer. How many people they usually do for a site of this size, for a community of this size, what size testing group? What Javier and I told him is we gave him an idea of the difference in our demographics from age to gender to educational background, all of that. And so what they'll do, we again have a meeting tomorrow where we're going to talk about exactly that, what we need at each one of these stages, which would include the number that we need for site testing. Javier and I both think it might be a good idea that we have one test group and we get the feedback from that test group about kind of what's not working. We go and fix it, and then we do a second site test so that we can be sure that we've implemented the changes and it works. Rather than bringing in a group who's already seen it, bring in a second blind group to be sure. Yeah, because sometimes you make a fix and it actually turns out, whoops, you were better off the other way. So that way with 2 different site groups, we'll be able to do that. And then our game plan also is to talk with the computer club about, you know, they do different classes and seminars, of working in conjunction with them to do a big rollout where we walk everybody through the 2 websites. And then the computer club will also offer hours at the computer center to help folks who might have some difficulty, not so much with Rossmore.com, because again, this one's designed for the folks out there, but for My Rossmore, which we'll talk about next, being sure people know how to utilize that website really well.
So I have a question. I noticed in the paper you're requesting people to do videos.
Yes,
Now, I'm assuming this is for the website,
yes it is.
and how many do you feel are appropriate for video, short video?
Right,
obviously?
so one of the reasons, what I've asked in the website is if somebody's interested in shooting a testimonial video, to send me, basically answer the question, why do you love Rossmore? Why did you move to Rossmore? I'm collecting those, and then I'm going through and I'm looking, again, same kind of thing. You want cross-population. So we don't want everybody to be a 60-year-old white female, because then all the testimonial videos would look the same. You want people who came here for different reasons so that you can mix up what those testimonials are. So our plan is to shoot 5 of them.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Right now, I have 11 testimonial nominations, so I have more than I need. Sam Bennett, whose team will be shooting these, said maybe what we actually do is shoot 7 in case there's 1 or 2 where afterwards we're like, oh, that wasn't as good as we thought it would be, then we have some choices within there. And we'll make sure that the residents who are doing this know it's nothing against you. It's just from a marketing standpoint, we want to be sure we're hitting the different types of folks we're trying to reach.
And when do we get the real estate folks involved? in reviewing the website?
So that'll probably come late November, because again, we are gonna need the actual pages for them to be able to see. But one of the things I plan to do as part of this process, the feedback process, is to reach out to our 3 big companies and ask to come and do a similar presentation to what you're getting today, to walk them through what we're doing, and then hopefully get some of the feedback on the front end, rather than building this entire thing and then having to go back and rebuild it, to get some of that input up front. I am gonna emphasize this, and I do this with Linda at the table, but I do wanna emphasize again that the marketing task force has given some very direct lines of where we want this website to go. And in some cases, it may not line up with exactly what the realtors want. So we understand that. But one of the places where I think the real estate agents will be most helpful is that real estate section, right? Where we're talking about the floor plans, what's offered with the different homes, what the process is for buying in Rossmore, really getting their feedback, because they know what questions are being asked. So we want to be sure those are the frequently asked questions. So I really kind of envision that as being their space, and the rest of the website really being about our space in terms of what the marketing task force and the other residents feel would help to drive the story, our storytelling with it.
Will there be a listing of houses that are available at the time? I mean,
Yeah,
that's, the
so-
reason I say that is that's something that's gonna have to be worked on a monthly basis. Drop some,
Right.
add some.
So here's the interesting thing that we have found out. We actually cannot put the MLS listings onto our website because we do not have a broker on staff. You have to have a broker or a real estate agent on staff in order to incorporate it into the website. But what we could do is partnerships with the different realtors in the area, where we create, it is an offsite page, but it would be an offsite page where they would go and be able to get those MLS listings. And likely what we would do is we would stick with our 3 primary, the ones who do the tours, those 3 primary real estate agents, and we would rotate so that, again, they're not always landing on just Rossmore Realty's website or Berkshire's or RE/MAX. Rotate those 1 per week, so that each of their websites are hit. But it would take them from our site to the MLS listings on their site. So that's one thing we're looking at. The second thing we're looking at, Javier found a company that will allow you to do a banner. So we could do a banner at the top of our real estate section where you can do featured listings. And then this is again where you can draw revenue as well. You sell those featured listing spots for a set price. You could give it to an agent for, say, a week, they buy a week, and they can put whatever listings they want into that spot in the course of that week. So then you would be seeing 12 to 16 current listings at a time
Kind
on
of
the website.
spotlighting.
Exactly. So part of this, how that's going to work, is really a conversation I want to bring back to planning and finance and the board, because again, now you're talking about the revenue end. And I do want to be sure, I have a finite number of people on staff. I have 2 sales reps, and then I have a 32-hour-a-week woman who does classifieds and legals. That is a small staff to do a lot with revenue. We're already $1 million revenue generating department. So what we do in terms of revenue, I want to be sure is at the highest possible end. So you're making the most money, you're maximizing those dollars for the staff time that we have. Or if we come in and we come up with this great plan that's going to make us $500,000, then I bring another salesperson in order to help generate that. But that's a bigger question. I have to tell you again, if you go back to this timeline, you're going to see how crazy this is. There is nowhere in here where I even have a spare 2 or 3 hours to sit down and think about revenue. So that's coming in April. We want to do it right.
Don't blame me.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up, and I think you probably saw the email, that there are now objections for people coming to tour Rossmore based on AI reviews of Rossmore. So I thought about that pretty deeply over the
Wait,
weekend.
who's objecting?
Potential buyers are now consulting AI to see if they should come to Rossmore. So the lady was kind enough to send me
What you
her-
got? Okay.
what she got and why she's not coming. And one of the concerns is says restrictive free speech policies, increased HOA fees, and mismanagement of the community's finances and property. So I know we're developing a webpage and we're doing outreach and we want to draw people back in, but I think in the web program, somehow we have to take and figure out the main categories of objections
Right.
and figure out from an AI algorithm standpoint, how to combat, which is what it is essentially online bad PR.
So there's three things with this. First off, another reason we chose Patient 10X is they are in the AI space. So they understand that search engine optimization is no longer just about a Google search. It's also about back-ending for AI. And that is a big part of it, right? So AI is scraping every resource that's out there. And right now, if you scrape our website, you aren't necessarily getting the other side. So in some cases, some of what AI is coming back with is without context. In other cases, it could be outright misinformation. That's part of what the back end will help do with the new Rossmore.com. The second piece to this, and this goes back to the digital content creator position, which I'm now blowing up into this much bigger position. But what I think the other thing we need to do, so right now I spend probably 4 hours a week going through Nextdoor. And when somebody says something crazy about Rossmore, like, oh, just come to the front gate, they'll let you in to come visit, I go, no, we won't. I spend a lot of time moderating what's on Nextdoor because there is so much false information about. Last week, I started talking with Yelp about the same kind of thing. We have never actually verified that page, the Yelp page, on purpose. Minute you verify that, it says, oh, the business is paying attention. Now I have to go in there and every time there's a negative review, I have to respond to it. We don't have the staffing to be able to do that. But with this new position, we do need to look at that. And that's something that Anthony's team at Patient 10X is also helping us to understand. How much is AI going to draw from places like Nextdoor, Yelp? Where does it make the most sense for us to put some staff resources to combat some of that negative, not so much the negative reviews, but the ones that may be putting things out of context or misinformation. Here's the third point. This point may not sit well with all of the residents, but I'm gonna say it out loud because this is one of the reasons we did the task force. We are not interested in bringing in anybody to live in Rossmore, to just sell the property and bring in a resident. We want it to be somebody who's going to succeed and thrive here, actually be happy in Rossmore. So we don't want to sell a false narrative. If the AI is coming back and saying, you need to be forewarned, you're not going to get a mortgage in here, you're going to have to pay cash. You want them to know that up front.
Yes.
If they are somebody who's coming in here and wants the ability to demonstrate wherever they want or hang their political signs out in their front yard, they should know coming in, you can't do that here. Because if they're given the false narrative and they move in here, they are immediately disgruntled with where they live. And so instead of marketing, and again, I understand a real estate agent, they want the commission, so they're trying to sell the home. Where our point is, we want to be sure that the residents we're bringing in, and there are a lot of them. Since we started doing marketing, I get flooded with emails from people going, why do we need marketing? We love it here. And I'm like, it's because your voice is not as loud as the negative voice, and we need more of that in our actual space, right? So again, I know it's not necessarily a popular thing to say because someone who's selling their home just wants to sell it. But for everybody else who lives here, you want to be sure your neighbor is going to be happy. So again, AI is not always a bad thing. Here's the other interesting thing. I tried to duplicate what she did. And the only prompt that brought that back is when I put in reasons not to live in Rossmore. Flip it around. Why should I or should I not live in Rossmore? You get a more balanced approach with the answer.
So she had a negative question to begin
She had a
with.
negative question to begin with, which again, you know, if you do, now you're getting into psychology, but if you do that, the folks who tend to lean towards only asking the negative questions are also going to be the ones who complain the most. So again, it's not that I'm saying that we don't want complainers in here, but I'm just saying that, again, sometimes your approach to what you're looking for, if you're going into that saying, I want to know up front all the bad stuff because that could turn me off, then maybe that's not the right resident to bring into Rossmore. So.
I agree.
But no, I do think that just like with search engine optimization,
Mhm.
there is some sort of AI optimization that becomes part of your weekly discipline.
Yes.
So that we understand the trends of why people are not coming
Yes.
to view
Absolutely.
the properties. And so we know the major categories.
Mhm.
And I agree with you that we don't want people that are negative, but I do think that it can get out of hand pretty quick
Yes.
with us not understanding what is being returned in a search. And maybe we want to combat that, and should we, with the algorithm, we can. I think, after having thought about it for a long time, Rossmore.com has a lot of credibility online, so it's gonna be indexed and searched, and the
Yes.
data that's in there is going to be returned.
Yes.
So from that standpoint, what we say about management, what people say on why they love to live here, all that will be indexed and then categorized logically, however those AI chatbots work. And they'll return at least a balanced bunch of information for people to sort of go through. Because I think the thing that worried me is not the older people that are looking at it, because they probably won't, it's their children who
Mhm.
don't have a lot of time, they're at work and they go, oh, mismanaged.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, yes.
That's what they
And
asked
again, that's
for.
one thing, like right now with Rossmore.com, we don't have the AI part built into that. It's an area that's still relatively new, and I'll be the first one to say I haven't been keen on it because of some of the more negative things that it does. But that's what I like, that Patient 10X is building that. Javier and I are now looking more closely at where, again, that's where we're now starting to branch out and say, okay, Rossmore.com will be the key central part of AI, but where else do you get that information being scraped?
Yeah.
And so that's where Nextdoor's popping up and Yelp's popping up 55 places. So that's where we start looking at that. It will also make a difference when we do our outside advertising. We also want to say, okay, where might some of this be percolating from? And that's where we also want to put some of our ad dollars. So again, social media. We have not had a Facebook page. This will be an opportunity for us to put the positive out into the
Yes.
community using social media, which is a big one for AI.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new territory.
Isn't that crazy?
Game.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think, suffice to say, I'm so glad we're down the road in developing these things to be able to address this issue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is huge.
It is.
And AI is like the neighborhood gossip line,
It
You
is.
You can't always control it, but there are ways that we can.
Yes.
But we should
Combat
monitor.
the information.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
monitor
You
it.
have to
I'm gonna be the
combat.
first one to say, some things that get put out there, if it's true, you leave it alone. It's the truth. And you don't, again, building a false perception is wrong. You want to be sure whoever comes in here is actually, the day they get here, they're like, oh, this is what I thought it was gonna be. But it's really difficult when, again, the false narrative gets pushed out there. Like, you have somebody who gets upset because they came through the gate and the arm was up, and so clearly it's not a secure community. Without understanding, we leave that arm up for the fire trucks and the ambulances. There's a reason for that. But guess what? By leaving that up, it saves them 10 seconds to get to that manner, and that's why it's done. So again, sometimes it's about putting things into context.
So a question is about the false narrative. A lot of the people I've talked to about the false narrative is that I didn't know that I had to call this and pay for this, and I can't build a fence around my house for my dog, and I didn't know. So those are endless. I mean, they're endless. And I mean, I think there has to be some onus to due diligence from the buyer's perspective.
There is.
Okay.
Now, the important part, because we've talked about this before again, right, is that sometimes you end up having to click, 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 click to get to find that information.
Yes.
So what we need to do, that goes back to the site architecture
Yes.
here. We need to be sure that what we're building here makes it very easy for them to find it. We talked at length in here about how we want it to be a 2, maximum 3-click experience. So you're on the home page, you click and open up the section, then you click and open up the page and you're there. What you need to find is on that page, so you don't have to go any deeper. The only time you might go deeper is if you wanted to download a document, then you have a 3rd click.
Kevin, you had a question?
I'm putting it in the chat, but Remax Rossmore has a great comparison chart between outside the gate and inside the gate, and the website should have some kind of version of that. I always send people to that when they're, oh, Rossmore's getting so expensive, but I'm like, outside the gate's not cheap either.
No, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
I have to go, folks. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
And then what's a little bit more about Rossmore.com. This group also has a post-launch marketing plan. So they're already looking at ways that we'll be able to let people know about our rebrand, about our new website. It's kind of interesting because when I was looking through this, I was thinking, we do side of the bus ads all the time. And that was never anything that popped in my head. Why not use the buses outside the gate to market Rossmore? It's something that should have, but it took Anthony's team to go, hey, how about this? So I love the fact that they're already thinking about how do we actually push out our brand. Again, they're thinking about that bigger picture for our post-launch, which I think is very important. So that's the upshot with Rossmore.com. Any questions or other feedback for things that you think we need to really be thinking about that we aren't already obviously thinking about for that website?
I think you've addressed it, Ann. Now's the meaty
Pretty
part.
good.
I will say, like I said, the timeline's ambitious, especially because we're doing 2 websites at once. It's as if you were to come to me in a month and say, oh, could you take on this project? I guarantee you the answer will be no. Everything is going into this. The websites are the most important thing I think we're going to do. We have to do it right. At the recent budget meeting, there was a lot of conversation about let's talk about revenue right now. And it's like, I could do that, but it will take me away from that core structure of building the redesign. And then what are we doing? We're selling something that may be less than what we were hoping it would be. So it's just too important to get this right. And again, there's certain priorities that we may not have talked in the marketing task force that we still have identified. Like we didn't talk a whole lot about diversity, but as we're breaking down and finding out there are segments of populations in here where we should tap into that more. We should make sure that everyone realizes we have a large Chinese American Association in here. That's important. That our gay and lesbian alliance is one of the largest in California. We should tap into that. So that there's a real good understanding that this is a great community, but within the community, you're also going to find your smaller community. So again, that's also become a really important part as we're building out our redesign is thinking about those elements. I mean, I've had different people from different groups say, we'd love to help you market. I'm like, that's great. When we've got a product, I'm gonna come to you and we'll talk about how to do that so that again, we're tapping those different communities.
Well, that brings up to the current site has a list of all the clubs,
Yes.
but it doesn't really say there's maybe one sentence you could say Chinese American Club, and then below it over 400 members. I mean, there's just nothing, it's just static. So when we move to that arena, I think just listing the clubs and just a sentence
Yes.
would be.
And this goes back again to trying to serve 2 different audiences meant that we were really only serving one.
Yeah, correct.
So for Rossmore.com, let's use the clubs as an example. On Rossmore.com, clubs will do exactly that. We have this number of clubs, and here's the different types. Did anyone in here know how many dance clubs we have?
I do.
Like about 11 or 12.
There's 12. There's
Yeah.
a dozen dance clubs. You would never know that by going to our clubs page,
No.
unless you typed in dance,
But
or
that's
you
what I'm
really
saying.
looked down and drilled down, right?
That page is so clunky.
Exactly. So that page for marketing is more about the diversity of the clubs that are offered. And it's more of a snapshot. So you may not see everything. You may not know every little detail about every little club,
That's what I'm saying.
but you get that snapshot for the marketing
Sure,
perspective.
the marketing snapshot, then
Right.
Rossmore.com goes more in depth.
Exactly. My Rossmore is now where you're gonna have a sentence or 2 about each of the clubs, a smaller snapshot of each club, and then click a button, here's how you can contact them.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's how that gets built out. It becomes more searchable. In the second phase, which we'll talk about in a moment with My Rossmore, we'll also be helping, but especially the smaller clubs that can't afford to do their own website, to help them create a web page. So they now have a web presence. So somebody can click, open up the web page and really see what that club is all about and decide if, is this something I want to explore? That is too much for the marketing end. The prospective resident doesn't necessarily need to see all that. But here again is the fun part now about My Rossmore. If you now are really leaning towards being at Rossmore, you want to make this your home, you might want to now go to My Rossmore and dig deeper.
See, somebody asked me that. The new My Rossmore, would a potential
Yes.
owner be able to go and take the dive there?
Yes, and so when we explain My Rossmore, I will show you what's going to be public facing versus what is for residents
Okay,
only.
got it.
So we'll talk about that in the next piece.
So in the next piece, we take off really marketing hats and
Yes.
put on resident hats.
That's correct.
How do you interpret this as being beneficial to residents? And
All right.
Making it easy is big.
making it easy.
That's probably the most important thing of all, yes. All right, so. Again, now we're looking at the redesign for the resident website. So again, there is a public facing part and then there's a part that's password protected. So only residents who live here would have access.
But we didn't get this on.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why you
That's
didn't.
fine.
Because I was still doing the budget meeting stuff.
Okay.
And I literally finished this
I
like
was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Friday
Okay.
afternoon. Okay, but I can share this if anyone wants this. I can have it added up and Deborah will add it to the packet and everyone will be able to access it.
Great.
All right, so what we're talking about now is My Rossmore. Again, this is about the residents, so that's our target audience. Don't think about the people moving in, don't think about the adult children, don't think about the realtors. This is just the people who live here. Okay, so the first thing that we thought was really important is we want our web design to really adhere to the brand guide. So we want that mood board to come into play. We want the colors and the logo to come into play. If we do that, then it is actually also going to align with Rossmore.com. So they're both going to have very similar themes and feels to them. That's important for that coherency. Some of what you're going to see as we go through, you're going to go, ooh, that text looks really small. Keep in mind, this is a draft. We have not started with Anthony on things like what's the font size. So a lot of this stuff is just a placeholder. I have not gone through and rewritten all of the content. But what we're trying to do is we're building what's called wireframes so that we have the pages built and the structure built so that all we have to do is go back in and fill in text and
Edit. This-
and photos and that kind of thing. Okay, so when we're looking at our strategy, it's important that, again, user-friendly content is number one, along with resident online services. So My Rossmore is really built around those online services that are offered by Vermont Systems and Dwelling Live. And then what you're going to end up having are your main sections, things like facilities, amenities, services. Within those, you're going to have subcategories. So now you've got things like landscaping and clubhouses that live under those main sections. And even within those, you have subcategories. This is where Rossmore.com got itself into trouble. There's so much information and nobody can find it. So when it comes to building a content strategy, we start with our actual online services. So these are going to be the buttons that we use to get people to the online services. You click on golf, it brings you to the tee time page once you've logged in. You click on recreation and fitness, it brings you to the place where you can buy your tickets, where you can make your fitness class appointments. You click on guest passes, do your password information, it's gonna take you to the page where now you can manage your guest passes for the front gate. So that's
It's
our,
really just gate passes. It's
Gate
not
passes.
guest passes.
well, it may be, because remember, we're talking about possible guest passes, so.
Talk to this group about that.
We will, we can
Okay,
come,
all
we
right.
can circle back on that one. So again, we emphasize the idea of a two-click experience. So from the home page, your section could be facilities that takes you to a clubhouse page That clubhouse page now has to have everything about the clubhouses on it because we don't want them to have to further click down to find out about the event center, dollar, etc. So when you look at the clubhouse page, it will now include, you kind of see the little loop, everything onto that one core page will be included. So that's our strategy. And now this is how we started to build it out. So I want to start by actually showing you live, hopefully this will work, what our homepage is going to start to
I
look
just
like.
have a question.
Yes,
You have 3 online services on this new one,
yes,
but we have 9 boxes on the old one.
some of that will become public, like the
Okay.
resident services
Sure.
part.
Okay.
But things like recreation right now is broken down as event
Classes
tickets,
and-
classes, excursions. We have a platform, Vermont Systems. When you click on that, it all lives within that
Okay,
platform.
so it's a subcategory.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
was important, remember, we talked about that. Golf is also part of Vermont Systems. So you will log in once and now have access to all of that.
Yeah, got it.
Whereas before, when you did that, you were only able to see a certain amount of things, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to have these different clicks to get to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, putting it all in one and one single sign-on
Okay.
is better. I'm gonna stop share for a sec because I wanna show you live the website, so give me 1 second to get that up. Okay, here we go. So again, remember, everything is sort of in draft mode, so trying to show you things that we're actually working on. So right now, the only way to see it is to go behind the scenes. So this is essentially what right now the front page of My Rossmore is gonna look like. You'll come on and we again do a heavy emphasis on those online services. Over here where you see latest news, this is where we're gonna have the alerts. So if we're doing paving, it's gonna be right here. If a clubhouse has to be closed down or there's a power outage that's gonna shut down Gateway, there's gonna be this latest news box where all the alerts are going to be fed in. So that maybe we can stop using Nixle for everything. And this will also have a button that will allow you to sign up for those alerts by email. So you'll be getting a separate email by signing up for the alerts.
Would this be an example where they do like golf, hole 18 construction?
Yes.
Going on for the pickleball courts
Yes,
at the end, so that.
exactly. Exactly. And then again, we had talked as a group about how what we really liked was more of this tile approach. So our section, facilities as our main section, and here you see you've got clubhouses, fitness center, pools. You will be able to click view all facilities and then all of the facilities will come up on one
Nice.
page. That one hasn't been built out yet, but these 3 have. And then again, as you scroll down, you're going to see we have a separate section for services, which will also be on the front page, amenities. And then at the bottom, it seems as if you really have to hunt to find out anything about who governs Rossmore. So this way you will immediately be able to go to the RWC governance page or immediately go to the mutuals page. I'm going to show you a little bit more of how the mutuals page works in a few minutes.
And I like the tabs on the side, but I don't like access control.
So that has been changed.
Okay.
Right now we're calling it guest passes, we can call it gate passes, there's different ways. Again, please keep in mind, this is all draft, and this is also what we're looking for is feedback. That's why I will share all of this with you so that you guys can scroll through it and then also come back to me and say, actually, I think it might be better if it's this, so that we can sit down and have that conversation.
So I have a
Yes,
question. I'm not loving recreation and fitness being together. They're so big, they're both so big.
yes.
And it just seems like we're going back to the old way we did in the old website, you know, putting too much.
But I
into
want to
one.
remind you again, that is just your online services piece. So when you click recreation and fitness, it takes you into Vermont Systems, where now you will navigate to, I want to buy event tickets, I want to do my classes, all on one dashboard. It will all live on one dashboard or in one calendar where you can click these. but it all exists within one space. In a moment, I'm gonna talk more about what that looks like. And then if you have questions afterwards, we can circle back to that, but there's kind of a reason for doing
This is part of that
that.
three-click thing, though. I
That's
mean, it helps out the three-click by
Exactly,
doing this.
exactly.
Okay.
And then the last thing is down in the footer, you have the the contact information, kind of the information that we get clicks on a lot on our site. We wanted those to be emphasized. So employment, our job listings, our phone directory, the meetings page gets clicked on quite a bit. The RWC vault, that is built for our mutuals. That's where all of the financial documents live so that our treasurers and presidents can get to that quickly. And then still the sign up for Nixle, because that will be important for those emergency messages. So again, this is what our draft of the homepage looks like. Keep in mind, everything is still being built. This is all just draft. So again, if you have feedback, and once we run through everything, because it may answer some questions like what Amy has, we can circle back on anything and talk about specifics to get some of your feedback. So
Can we
when
give feedback as we go?
you sure can.
So like RWC vault means nothing to me.
Yeah.
And if it's RWC info, mutuals info, I don't know.
Yeah, we could certainly call, we could change it to like mutual finances so that they understand. We use a program called Vault to do all of the financials. So that's kind of why it got called RWC Vault, but absolutely, that's a name on a page. So we can change that very easily. And again, this is part of when we sit down and have these more full conversations, when every page is fully designed, we will actually nitpick this. We will go through and go, oh, actually we wanted to say this, we wanted to say that. What would be harder to nitpick is the actual site, the wireframes. So if you come back and say, oh, I really wish we didn't do tiles. I wish we had it listed more like our current website. Now it's too late. That would be a whole nother month's worth of work. So really look at sort of that bigger end and say, yes, we like that, or no, actually, we really don't like this. Let's do something different.
And when can we see Vermont systems?
So that's not entirely my space. So we have signed the contract with the board just last month, approved that. So we have signed the contract with them, and they're again going through the strategy development stage. So at each junction, they have to work like with events, they have to work with excursions, they have to work with fitness. They have set up that timetable, and now what they're doing is they're going on the back end and they're starting to set it up so it looks like us. We don't want to, you don't want, because right now what you're going to see is other places, other properties, how it's built out to work for them. So once we get that all built in, then Ann will be able to come back. I don't know what the timetable is going to be because they're right in the middle of setup. But once those are set up, then she can come back and give you a peek inside, and you'll see what it actually looks like for us, rather than saying, well, this is how this country club has set it up. And then you're like, but how does that work for us? So this way, it's important that you actually see it based on what it's going to look like.
And will we be
In
able
Rossmore.
to provide feedback at that point?
Yeah, I mean, that's my,
Modifications?
yes. I mean, again, there's going to be some limits because this is a set platform. And so there's certain things that have to be done a certain way. But absolutely, I mean, if you look at something and you're like, I think that's too confusing, the residents would never understand what they're clicking on. That's the kind of thing that, yes, you could come back and say, we think this might work better. And again, I don't know what the timetable is for that, because last time I talked with Ann last week, she was saying that they were still in that strategy and, you know, that initial setup phase. So we've got to let them get through that part first before we bring it to everybody else to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so next up, again, we have, so I want to show you kind of how this also works. So with facilities, if you click on Learn More, it will open up the page where you're going to see this is RWC clubhouses. So it gives you a quick little, here's what our clubhouses are. And then as you scroll down the page, you're going to see information on each of the clubhouses. Now, again, keep in mind, that is not the actual text that's going to stay here. That's what's currently kind of on our websites. I'm rewriting all of this. The font size will be larger. The font is going to be different. We want that to be in line with what we do on rossmore.com. The photos, again, we've got the media team taking photos. Those will be used over here as well as on rossmore.com. So all of that will be updated. But this is to give you an idea of this is essentially what it's going to look like. And so as you scroll through, you'll see each of the clubhouses now exists on this one page.
Susan had a question.
Where I see the reservations tab, is that where a club or a member who wanted to reserve the facility, that's where they would get into the whole back end of reserving rooms?
No, so I want to also emphasize that what we're building right now is what we have the current capacity to do. So Vermont Systems will have this whole other layer for being able to do reservations, but when we launch off, it will be the same setup. In the middle of a launch off with a new software program, the last thing you want to do is also blow up the workflow for how we do it with the residents, especially because it took a while to get us to this point with reservations to begin with. We give staff at least 6 months in the new system to learn how it works and what can be actually opened up to the residents. That said, right now on My Rossmore, you can buy tickets. So when we launch, you will be able to buy tickets. You can book your class, you can book your excursion. Anything you can currently do on My Rossmore, you will be able to do the day that we launch. There will be a couple of other things like fitness classes, booking your fitness classes, booking your personal training. That could also be available right up front, but it's really going to be more the one-on-one resident transactions to start. We still have to understand the full capability of what Vermont Systems can do with all these other spaces to know how much we can open up to the residents to do other things. So I guess you could say we have a roadmap of where we'd like to be, but when we first come out of the gate, phase 1, this is what you're looking at. And in a moment, I'll show you what the reservations tab will take you to.
We don't want this to come out and have it do everything for everybody right from the get-go, do we? Because I mean, that's a lot of stuff to teach people.
Exactly.
I think that it's a better way to ease into it, but we can come back at any point,
Absolutely.
add more stuff, and I see this over years going on. We're
Yes.
gonna be tweaking it and stuff, all this.
It'll
All of a
always
sudden,
evolve.
It has to be looked at every year, every 2 years, we have to look at it to think, to think. when-
Websites need to evolve.
Yeah,
They need
so
to,
it-
it's
so-
sort of like we're in an AI space. We need to
Yeah.
evolve to that.
Yeah,
So the important part to start off is, like you said, you want to start off with everything that they currently have and give them a little bit of new. Like right now, not everyone can do the gate passes, but that will be available at launch. So you want to start with that piece because it's the manageable piece to train and get them familiar with using this. We also need to build up our My Rossmore subscribers, if you will, to get more residents in there.
Users. we need
Exactly. Right now, you have about 1,200 that use it on a regular basis, but again, we're a community of 10,000. I would like that number to be at 5. When we're at 5,000, now we start talking about phase 2, phase 3, and really start to grow this out. And I am gonna give you a sneak peek at something that is phase 2, just so you can kind of get a sense of where we're headed.
You have a question over here.
Yep, yes.
So, and I think this is so impressive in terms of the thinking that's going into it. And I really like the vision of being able to move from 1,200 current users to 5,000. In order to do that most effectively, what could be done to include at least some of that 1,200 currently in terms of getting their input at the very outset, not necessarily to tweak the
And that's why we're doing this.
capability, but-
Yeah,
but the
that's why
core
we're
idea-
doing this today. This is the real starting point for the feedback. So we open it up here at marketing and start that conversation. We get it into the paper, tell them what we're doing to start to get some of the feedback from the residents. Then I go to different groups. I have already gone to the mutual presidents, so that's the first conversation that we've had. Then there's going to be the realtor group, because I do have to work on rossmore.com first, just because that's kind of the big piece that really has timeline elements to it. Then there's different clubs, reaching out to the different clubs and talking with the different clubs about how we get them involved. Some of those conversations are already happening. For example, I went to the Drama Association and I said, here's the deal. There's going to be some stage shots on our website, like at the Creekside Grill or in our park. I'd like to use your actors to do it because you guys are used to being in front of the camera. You're not going to be looking to see where the camera is. You're going to be focused on staying within your little scene. That also then led into the, oh, well, that's really great. Is there a way that when we have performances or events, we'll be able to use My Rossmore to push those out? Yes, that's coming. And then we talk about how that's built into this this events calendar that's going to live in Vermont systems. And then again, that's when you have that more granular conversation about what could that look like? Again, we just signed on with Vermont Systems. We've done the demos. We have a really good sense for what it can do, but what that level is going to look like, who has to input the information that goes into the calendar, those are the pieces we still have to work out and understand. So it is a lengthy process, but in order to have these conversations, I need to do this. I need to be able to show them what it looks like so that they have a jumping off point to be able to give some feedback about what they want. Again, the marketing task force identified a few things, but as Amy points out, I've heard from many clubs as we're going through this process and talking about redesign, could the club's page have this, this, and this? So I'm already getting a lot of feedback. Sometimes the answer is going to be no.
Yeah.
And the answer has to be no because there's certain things like, you know, for example, the clubs wanted to have access to just come in and change their own information. Absolutely not. I can't have everybody inside the WordPress platform, right? But I have a content creator who can do that. We can create a form and each club can fill out that form anytime they want information changed. They feed it in and we can set it up so that the information automatically changes. So that will make it easier for the clubs because right now they have to email us and say, can you change this on the page? Can we set up a way that it funnels it so it happens automatically? So we try to address what the concern is with what's actually the right way, the right solution for that need.
So can you go back a couple of, just keep going. Okay, so this is kind of a picky thing,
No, go
but
ahead.
while we're starting, you know, we want to continue to brand ourselves in every way we can from both platforms. So RWC, I think, should read Rossmore Walnut Creek. I
would
think
agree with
every
that.
time we're talking about it, it should say Rossmore Walnut Creek, not abbreviation.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay.
And again, that's sub of how this
It's
is,
a
yeah,
branding thing.
it's a branding thing, but it's good to know that up front because then as we build the additional
Right,
pages,
that's what I'm saying.
instead of using RWC, we use Rossmore Walnut Creek.
Right, because I think we're still rebranding, especially if somebody from outside can go in.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
it's gotta be Rossmore Walnut Creek.
Exactly. Okay, so again, this is all on the same page, but again, as you saw up here, there's rental info and reservations buttons on each of these pages. So this is where now you were talking, is there times when you have a third click? This is your third click. Your third click is actually going to bring you to the different documents that are available. So rental info will bring you to the PDF that you can download or print, or just view. Reservations will bring you to the conditions and guidelines, the applications, the room fees. Again, this is what all exists right now on the website. That doesn't mean that as we evolve and we move to stages, you know, stage 2, stage 3, that this won't adjust so that it does that certain things become more resident service based. It just means that right now we're building it as it exists. In the footer of a clubhouse page and other pages where we know residents might want to ask for more information, we're actually building a need more info box that will allow them, you see this on a lot of websites. You can just do the message directly in here instead of having to copy the email and go to your email and actually create an email. You can now do it on the page. So we're building this into the footers of any pages where we think the residents might want to ask more information.
A question, some websites also have it at the top and the bottom.
Yeah, so we've gone back and forth on that. Part of it is you can't see it on here because I can't put everything onto the screen at once. But those online services, they live on all of the pages, so it's constantly scrolling down the side. We want to be careful not to clutter too much of the top or the side, because then it becomes very cumbersome for the residents to be able to use this. Now, there are going to be certain pages, like when we get to the contact us page, where it is upfront, because we know if somebody's clicking phone directory, they want to get that information immediately. You'll see that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
where's the call to action to register?
For register for,
MyRossmore.com.
okay, so again, what you're seeing first is the public facing pages. So there is nothing here that requires you to do a password. All of this is open to everybody. When we get through the public facing pages,
I understand that, but for a resident who is on that public page, shouldn't there be a call to action to register? If we're only at 1,200, we want to get to 10,000.
right, so it's those online services buttons. We can make something more prominent on the front page about how to register for the resident services. We can certainly add that in. In fact, we could put that right at the top.
I think you should.
Yeah, we can do that.
It troubles me that Nixle has such a prominent feature.
Sure.
And we really
Well,
want to.
And again,
Emergencies.
right, the services piece, like I said, you can't see it on this page because I didn't copy it over because I didn't want to block the content. The screen is only so big here. But the resident service pieces will stay on all of these pages. So if you want to go in, again, get a golf tee time, you'll be able to click that. The minute you do that, that takes you to the screen. That takes you into that sign-on part. The register now piece, we're probably going to blast out. We're going to start by blasting out with emails that will say, click here on this link to register. Having them do it directly on the page, I think we need to stop waiting for them to come to us. We need to do more of going to them. So that's part of what our strategy is there. But I do think it's a good idea on that homepage to put something prominent that says, to access resident services, click here to register.
We have to have both.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
We reach out to them, but we also.
Absolutely, yep.
The other way.
So as I understand this, we're gonna have, we got rossmore.com, and then for the prospective buyers and everything, and then there's a section in there that's gonna give them a preview of My Rossmore,
There's
a preview, and then we have a separate one. Then but that's just on the marketing side of it, and then we have the actual myrossmore.com for the resident.
Yeah,
Which
so
is
on
all about the
rossmore.com, there will still be a button that says, it'll say residence website instead of My Rossmore. If you click on that, that will take you into this
As a
front-facing
resident,
page.
But aren't we doing, didn't I hear you say something about
Again,
the
this-
marketing people, the person who's looking into Rossmore will get an idea of what is available, but it's not anything that's actionable. They can't click on stuff and jump around, but they're gonna get a.
No,
preview.
so I'm sorry if
Yeah.
that wasn't clear. Rossmore.com is designed where it will show you all of the information from a prospective buyer standpoint. But if they click on the resident website link, it will take them to My Rossmore and they will see everything that's on the public pages.
Which is
what they
only
will-
open to residents.
No, the public pages is everybody. So what you're seeing here is everybody. Anyone can look at this public page. What they can't do is the transactional pieces. They can't make a golf tee time, they can't buy a ticket. That part will be behind a password protected site. That's going to be run by Vermont Systems or Dwelling Live. And again, when I get through with the public pages, I'm gonna give you, it's a snapshot, but I'll give you a snapshot of Vermont Systems and Dwelling Live. Okay. I'm sorry. So this is the golf page. This one's probably as close as we've come to having something that's really kind of ready to go. So again, the general rules and the golf course local rules, those are PDF files that will open up. You can download, save them for later. This again, click here to reserve your tee time, will take you into Vermont Systems to do your tee time. You're gonna get a snapshot of what each of the courses look like. We've also done, this needs to be redone because I don't like the design on this, but we want a prominent, important note about walking on the golf course. This is the second most asked question I get. So anytime something lands on my top 20 most frequently asked questions, it's getting built into My Rossmore. And then if you scroll down again, we're sticking with the tiled approach. So your pro shop information on the left-hand side is like hours, the things you need to know, where it's located, and then practice facilities is on the right side. Scroll down further, now we have the tournament dates and the fee schedule. It used to be that you had to click a button to get to these. Now everything is built on the actual page. Now the problem I've got with the way this is built, so we're already changing this, it's too small. So it will be, way too small. So the fees will be the first one, larger tournament dates will follow below that. Again, this is still a work in progress, right? Here's another page, work orders. So work orders will now show you who do you call during regular hours, who do you call after hours. We need to make, sometimes when we've seen residents are confused about things, we want to make it a little bit more obvious to them, who do you call?
And this is Rossmore Walnut Creek Property Management work orders.
Yes. But do we really want to put all of that in there? I don't know. You want to be careful not to put too much into your header. So we can look at that, but there may be times where we want to kind of be very careful about how much we put in.
No, and I agree.
We could
but
build it-
property management is
Yeah.
really important.
So what we could build instead of putting it into, we could do above it. We could put Rossmore RWC Property Management in what's called H2. So that's not the first thing that gets caught on a search, it's the second thing, and keep the work orders as the primary one. Because again, work orders is the only thing you would want to see as that sort of page front. You're really using Rossmore Property Management for searching for search engines and for AI and for that sort of front facing, this is who we are.
Mary, we'll get to you in a second. So secondary. So this weekend, our neighbor had a big problem. Have you called property management? What's that? It's not, have you submitted a work order? It's a matter of what people should be thinking of.
Right.
They should be thinking of property management, call property management, call.
And
property
that's,
management.
again, part of the bigger rebrand. This is why I'll say it, my life is hell right now, because I'm trying to do 2 redesigns with the website and also do that rebrand. So that rebrand work is happening at the same time. We're changing over signs, we're changing over documents, we're making sure the uniforms, we're doing all of the back end piece before we do that heavy hitting of really getting the community to understand what the rebrand is. I'll say this right now, I almost never see GRF in anything anymore. Everybody picked up RWC very quickly. It's taking a little bit more time, and we knew this going in, of getting away from MOD and getting to RPM. So, and part of that too is that we couldn't, with the NetSuite implementation and just doing all the budgets, we could not ask finance to go in and change all the banking information to Rossmore Property Management. That has been a slower rollout. If you remember the last meeting, I talked about how there was no way we could do a rebrand without it taking almost a year. And this is why. There's phases to that. So part of that push of getting the community to understand the rebrand part is going to have to come after the heavy hitting with the websites. So you're talking more like November, December, and really January is where it's full court press. New year, everybody needs to be knowing and thinking this. So I agree, again, put Rossmore Walnut Creek on it, put Rossmore Property Management, but from a design standpoint, I also have to be thinking about how do I address this up front? Because Rossmore Property Management is a lot of things. What is it? And it's actually not going to be work orders, just so you know, it's going to be service orders. So we're changing a lot of names around here because what you're asking for is a service to be done, a maintenance service, a landscape service. So certain things are going to change. Again, I can see on the backside when I'm looking at Google Analytics what people are searching for. And they're actually not putting in work order desk. They're putting in service order desk more than they're putting in work order desk, which tells us, okay, if you've lived here for a really long time, you know it is work order, but if you're the new folks coming in, you know it is service order. So again, some of this we have to adjust in order to kind of capture where most people are.
Mary.
Something to keep in mind, and we do have one mutual here in Rossmore that doesn't use, the residents will be able to search, but when they think of work order, they're thinking of something different than
Yes.
Rossmore Property Management. That needs to be made clear.
Yes, and so what Mary's talking about is Waterford. So Waterford actually is going to have its own section and its own pages within there. And I'm already working with the executive director for what that needs to look like. So she's breaking down what those pages are based on what she thinks the residents' needs are over there. She'll talk with the mutual have a conversation about what they want included. So the Waterford is still part of my Rossmore, but it really is going to have its own separate section because it is outside of the property management.
This is an odd question. Does anybody know what percentage of people in Waterford move from Rossmore? or move from outside?
I bet somebody does have that number.
Well, I think that'd be interesting about the marketing aspect.
Mhm.
Maybe some people, I assume, you go from Rossmore and then you go to your manor and then you go to, if you want to, you go there. But there could be outside people who are going to want to move.
Mary's from the outside.
The majority of residents to Waterford move from outside.
They did, okay, see, and so that's another big marketing thing we need to think about.
Yeah, like I said, that's why we thought it was really important. We did this even before we got to the redesign.
Okay.
We built a Waterford page, I say probably 6-7 months ago.
Okay,
Because there were so many people asking about it, and what we were noticing is that most of them were going, there's a real estate agent who kind of really specializes in the Waterford. They were going to her page, and I'm like, wait a minute, they really need to live over here in our space. So we had actually already built that, but now what we need to do is we have it built for the marketing side, and we know what helps to market the Waterford to the outside, but we also have to build it for My Rossmore because there are residents in here who want to know. So for example, if the Waterford has its own activities calendar and it wants its residents to have access to that online, that should live on My Rossmore
correct,
on the Waterford page.
correct.
That's why I said again, each one of these websites, very different buckets. They can have the same name, but when you open the page, they could look very different.
They're parallel.
Yes, yes. And then, so we also talk, here's the available service types. And again, here's the email that you can submit your work order, service order, whatever we're calling it, directly to the actual work order desk. We are moving away from this, which I always thought was an ugly design. This idea of lists, again, to tiles. So here's what alterations and resales currently looks like. And this is what it's going to actually look like when we're done. Now, mind you, none of the photo elements have been built into this yet, but you're going to have now the tiled approach instead of the list approach. It is so much easier for people to actually see. And more importantly, instead of it just saying alterations FAQ, what does that mean? So we'll have little explanations with each of them that hopefully will make this much easier for them to navigate. And then we have it broken down by their different sections. And then there's our videos as part of the webpage. Did you have a question? Yes.
So it's frustrating in many cases, but in today's world, when you go to a website, a little chat bot comes up to answer FAQs or answer standard
The live
questions.
chat, you mean?
Not necessarily live.
They're-
In most cases, they're
They're
chat bots.
computer
Oh,
generated.
they're AI.
Yes,
They-
they're
they
AI.
call them live.
Mhm.
Is that anything that we're considering?
At this time, no, there's a fee attached to that, but it's something that absolutely, again, is part of the feedback. If the general consensus becomes, we're hearing from a lot of residents, we'd really like to have that, we could certainly go out, price it, and see what it's going to cost to have it built in. The one thing that I will I will insist that we do is that it only scrapes our website. We do not want it to go anywhere else to get other information because that's dangerous. So if it's a question that, I mean, sometimes if you've ever been on a site and you type in something and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're asking, you could still get that because it could be a question they're asking like, I'm ready to work with a real estate agent, who do I contact? Well, unless we have decided how we're going to funnel that, the answer is going to be, here's the list of real estate agents who advertise in the Rossmore News.
I think it would actually be more appropriate on My Rossmore and not on rossmore.com.
We can
For
look
that
at that
reason.
too. Mhm.
Yeah.
Because live chat is really what FAQ used to be.
Yeah, so live chat is different. Live chat means you are actually talking to a live person.
Okay,
And
well,
then
AI
you-
chat, I'm
Right,
just saying.
so
chatbot.
yeah, chatbot is what they
I'm
call it,
just-
yes.
chatbot. But I'm just saying, that is replacing FAQ.
Yeah.
In
Right.
the URL world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's a new, because it's AI function, it's a new way to search. So instead of going up to a search bar and looking for something, you're now using the chat bot to move you in. So yeah, but again, there's fees attached to just about everything. I don't think it's that expensive. So we will put that on the list.
I think
And
seriously, we
then,
have, excuse me,
That's okay.
seriously, we have to think about that for children of that age group.
So now we're talking different, because right now Dwight's saying just my Rossmore. If we're also talking Rossmore.com, again, keep in mind, they're two different spaces, so that would be purchasing two different licenses, one for one website, one for the other.
Or whichever one we
can
decide.
Right, we can certainly be open to this, to anything. We can throw all of these ideas together, and then I come back to planning. What I'm also doing is this presentation, the My Rossmore one, is going to be done to the full board on Thursday. And so that's gonna then be the opportunity to collect all the feedback that we get from here and from that meeting. And then we start to do the bullet points for what's available to sort of address these solutions. I wanted to wait till we got to the end of this presentation to talk about, the next question becomes, do we want to survey all of the residents? To ask them sort of the specific kinds of things that they're looking for on the website. Do we want to do this in a survey approach? Do we want to do this in a town hall approach? There's different ways that we can get that feedback, but let's run through the rest of this and then have that bigger conversation, if you don't mind. I know we're running out of time, so I'll go a little bit faster here.
Just one real quick
Sure.
question. Looking at the MTF, we have a lot of people, it appears, that are either a corporation buying in or they're buying to another location. They're moving, whether I can't do the stairs anymore, I need a level in or whatever, but they're looking for stuff. Where, they already live here. Where would they catch the real estate market on that side of it? Would they, is there gonna be in My Rossmore, is there gonna say, thinking of buying another place or thinking of buying a different place? Is there a button that'll take them back to there?
Yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be a button that'll take you back to rossmore.com.
Okay.
I think, again, that's part of really helping them to understand the difference between the two websites. So that's a big part of our launch, and understanding this is what each website does. You incorporate it in things like the all-around Rossmore guide will be, when you're thinking about selling your home, you want to be here. When you've just moved in, you want to be here. Really kind of understanding what space you're supposed to be in. But again, it's impossible, and this is where we ran into problems by trying to merge those all into one. We want to be really careful with My Rossmore that we're not pulling in that real estate end of it.
No,
Because then we've got them in the
but I
wrong
was just
space.
thinking, because of the last MTF was a huge difference of
Right.
sold and who paid the MTF. That's telling me something's happening inside,
Mhm.
and where would they go to? It's just thought,
Right.
it's not, maybe not this the right.
Yeah,
time
and
for
again,
that, but it is.
that's a branding thing. It's about how we get them into the right space.
Oh, and one other thing, the blue headers just bug the hell out of me. That is tough. I want to see some color and vibrancy and what we're all about. Is
Great.
that,
I'm glad you brought that up.
every
No,
time I see one of those come up, I'm thinking, oh, God, I cringe a little bit.
And that's, again, why we're doing this. We want that kind of feedback so that we
We do,
can
okay,
make the
all right.
shift. Yeah,
Because, I would,
yep.
it
we'll
makes
put-
me depressed.
It's very, that's just the filter. We just take the filter off and do the bright photos instead. So that's an easy fix.
Okay.
So again, the next part is really emphasizing resident services so that they can understand first where they can go, and then what the services are, what the programs are that they get from the different departments. And then for things like counseling, when it's really about the connection with the people, making sure that they can see who these people are and how to reach
like
them
that.
quickly. This is our contact us page. And again, it's about getting that information up there immediately. So now your sent message box is right at the top in case you want to email, and your general information. And then if you've looked on our contacts page now, again, it's very list. So what we're shifting to is, okay, if you're interested in a particular thing, so for example, you want to know, you're looking for more general information, you click on the little plus, and that's going to bring you to the page, to the drop down of all the different departments and phone numbers so that you can reach them. It just keeps it from being all cluttered on one page, which sometimes makes it a little harder to navigate. I mentioned at the top that we were going to talk a little bit about the mutuals pages. So each mutual right now has a flyout that I think is obnoxious. So we're getting rid of that, and we're moving to full pages for each mutual. So up top, it'll be very easy for them to see who's the board officers. And then there's also going to be the contact us box for the actual mutual board coordinator when they're trying to get a question and they're not sure who to contact. And then the documents are going to be done in a way that makes it hopefully easier for them to find what they need. So they'll be able to search for the document. So for example, agendas.
Can you search for topics?
You can search for topics too, yes.
That would be a godsend.
It will, but it's gonna be a big change because it changes how we do our PDFs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's some training involved with staff to be able to make that happen.
Right.
You'll still be able to see your primary tabs for agenda minutes, governing documents, and useful information. If you're looking for something way back when, you can use the all years and find it by just bring up that particular year to be able to see what documents are for that year. And then we get asked this a lot. People are like, I just want to find it by the date. Why do I have to go through a whole big list? So you won't anymore. You'll be able to go right to the calendar and you're like, oh, I want to go to the meeting on the 23rd. And you'll be able to click right on the agenda on the 23rd to take you to the agenda page.
And this is gonna be a part of the initial rollout.
Yes.
That's
We've been at it.
That's a major step forward.
So I have to tell you this right now, as you guys were doing your work, we were already starting to build some of this. We were kind of anticipating we were going in this way. We figured if we wasted our time, oh well, but we needed to do some of this anyway.
So, again, I'm a wordsmith kind of person. Online services is very flat to me.
Yep, we can change that.
I think it has to be something positive, like, check here or go, here, something that invites you in. This just seems very stiff to me, online services,
Rossmore, Walnut Creek activities.
something.
And
It
we
just
want to be
seems
careful not to get
very
too wordy
forbidden.
too, though we
Yeah.
do want to be careful not to get too wordy, because
No,
too
but
many
I mean-
words and that's going to make it hard for
I
you to
agree,
understand.
but
It's-
something else. This
Yes,
just seems very-
services really needs to be there because we want to put the emphasis on the fact that this is your transactional services, right?
Community services.
We could certainly do it that way, community
This
service.
just seems so.
So this is again where I think, especially when we're talking about the wordsmithing part, I really think maybe what we need to do is come back to planning with some of these bigger
Okay,
questions
Sure.
and start that conversation. This may even be a point where what would residents connect with the most, where you might want to have a survey. So you have a couple of options and let the residents really tell you, this is what I feel like it should be. So again, when we get through this, I want to talk about what's our next step now for getting that larger feedback. But let me walk you through what we're right now calling online services. Again, this is the transactional part. So now this is your password protected portal that's for residents only. So we start with Vermont Systems. And when we first launch off, what it will include are event tickets, excursion bookings, rec class bookings, golf tee times, fitness class bookings, personal training bookings, and the events calendar. This is what it launches off with. That's not to say that this is our end point. This is our starting point. It'll also be available on an app. So you'll be able, like you were talking about, Ted, you'll be able to have that app on your phone so you can click it and go, oh, there's my tea time, and you're done. In and out very quickly, because so many people are now on their phone.
Wait, so it is an app or it's a bookmark?
Well, no, this one, Vermont Systems, the Vermont Systems page is an app. My Rossmore, you'd have to bookmark. The public pages. Now we're talking password protected. So the password protected part has an app.
And once you're password protected, you're in the app.
Correct. Yeah. So once every resident in here,
That's what I'm
they'll
saying.
be able to log in using their email, and everyone will actually have a stand-in password. When you first go to log in, you're going to click on, because you're registering for the first time, you're going to
Ask you
click
to
on setting your password change. You'll go to a page. It will give you the option to go ahead and put in what your new password's going to be. It's going to ask for verification data. So where do you live, or what's your phone number? There's certain things that are in the member records. It's going to ask for that before it lets you change your password. Once you've changed your password, now you put your username in, you put your password in, you're in.
But this is, once you're in, you're using the app.
Correct.
That's
You're
all I'm
using,
saying.
yes, you're using the app. You can still do it from a computer.
Yes.
So the laptop, you go and click on any one of those buttons, the golf, recreation,
Wonderful.
fitness, it's gonna take you to a landing page where that's your login. I don't want to get too far ahead. I think they said that it's possible that you can check a box so it remembers you for like 90 days. So once you log in, you're there for 90 days, and after 90 days, you have to log in again. I have to go back and look at that one for this, but.
Mary, we'll get to you. Is it an app you download?
So the app, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go, they're gonna set the app up for us. So it would be Vermont Systems Rossmore, Walnut Creek. So when you'll download that app, and that app will now live just like any other icon on your phone. And when you are ready to do whatever you want to do on your phone, you're going to click it open, and you will the first time put in your username and your password. And again, I think it's like every 90 days, you may have to re-input that again. And then you're inside, and from the app, you're able to do your transactions. The other
So
part,
the answer is yes.
yeah, the short answer is yes.
That's a little confusing in that you're no longer in My Rossmore.
That's
So
correct.
if you need information from My Rossmore, you cannot get it from the.
That
app.
is correct.
So there's got to be.
Again, we talked about this. If the only way to keep it in My Rossmore was to keep the customized My Rossmore, what you're currently seeing, we would have had to keep that. The only way to build additional sections in, like if you want to do the stuff at the fitness center, would be to pay $25,000 to develop it. And then we're paying about between $25,000 and $30,000 a year to maintain it, because it's a custom site. So we made the decision instead to go to a third-party app. It's just like Dwelling Live. Dwelling Live does not live inside My Rossmore either. It is a separate website. So there are two. But what we tried to do, what we actually succeeded in doing, was finding Vermont Systems, which gives you as many of those transactionals as possible in one space, so that you only have to log in once to access all of these different features. You only will have, I mean, again, right now, the gate passes is in a separate one that you'll have to separately log into. We have to explore whether or not there's a change coming for that later. But for right now, there will be two separate platforms that you do have to go to. There was no other way around this.
People are using it right now all the time for booking gym classes. And it's super simple, easy. You know, we're walking the dogs, Judy's signing up for classes on her phone all the time. So they're already doing, I think, what you're talking about.
Yes, but they're doing it in
We're just gonna add
MindBody.
more features to it. You're
Yeah.
gonna be able to get in it, and I could do golf. I can't do golf like she does gym. But we're gonna be able to do it on
So
that app.
the gym one right now is done through MindBody. That's a different software right now. What we wanted to do was avoid what's happening, where you've got Thunder Tickets that's taking care of event tickets, and MindBody's doing
All these
fitness,
apps.
and 4Up's doing golf, and that's why we had to have a customized My Rossmore. You had to use the APIs to pull all of this data from all these different platforms. That's why it's so expensive. It's also why, if you remember, I think it was back a year ago, June, where 4Up went down for 2 weeks because they changed something in their code. It no longer worked with our customized page. And we literally had to have our developers sift through 1,000 pages to find the code change in order to get it active again.
So here's my concern, and Mary, we're not forgetting you. So myrossmore.com, we want to drive as the gateway to everything for residents.
Correct.
But then over here, we have an app that people are gonna think is everything, but it's not.
Again,
And so,
this,
hold on, do we have to have the app? Can't we continue to make
So-
sure everybody goes through My Rossmore?
yeah, okay, so here's the thing. That's kind of like saying, I'm gonna spend all this money on a Cadillac, but I'm not gonna get automatic windows because it might be too confusing for them. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. You don't have to use the app. It's a choice. You don't have to download the app. You can continue to do everything from the myrossmore.com page. You can click on the online services. It will open up the screen. You log in, off and going. You're now still technically, you believe you're still in that My Rossmore space.
Yeah.
And when you go back, you're getting back to My Rossmore. But if you're the kind of person like me, where you're on the fly all the time and you're using your phone nonstop, you want an app. So you want that to be available to the residents who have it. Again, we want to be careful that we are not cutting off our nose to spite our face, right? So that the folks coming in are like, what do you mean you don't have an app? Why isn't there an app for this?
Yeah.
So you want to be able to.
But it's not a universal app. If I'm looking for mutual information, I'm not gonna see that at all.
Right,
Yeah, there
so-
are things that are on myrossmore.com behind the password.
Right.
That are not gonna be on the app.
So what, that again becomes part of how we communicate, how we brand it, so that again, we make it very clear that what they're doing in Vermont Systems is the transactional services. So if you're going to a mutuals page, there's no transaction happening there. There's no money being exchanged. There's no signing up for anything. But Vermont Systems, that's what it does. Vermont Systems isn't about educating you about what the different clubhouses are, the different clubs,
I understand
right?
that, Ann. I understand that. I'm just saying we now have two things going on. This one offers everything. This one is very limited. And people will migrate to the app, probably very convenient. And then they're not gonna know that this is over here.
So you can put a limitation right on the app, when you open the app at first. It's like, here's the limitations, if you want these areas, go to the.
Yeah, we could certainly redirect.
website.
We could talk with Vermont Systems about whether from the app page, we could redirect, like do a button that would bring them into my Rossmore. I don't know if that's possible, but I'll put it on the list to ask.
That list, you can put that header on the page. You open the app, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Mary.
This is kind of quick, but basically, since it's password protected, is there going to be facial recognition? And also, is there going to be the double verification?
Yeah, so we're trying as much as we can to avoid the double verification. There's so many residents who struggle with that. I can't answer all of the questions about Vermont Systems. I don't understand it quite as well as Kelsey, who's really running this, and Ann Matola. This is more their department. Again, give them another month or so to really understand how all of this works, and then they'll come back and do the presentation and answer some of those higher level questions. I'll go back and let Kelsey know, we've got the question with the app. Could we on that front facing page, can we customize so that again, there's a button that will take them back to my Rossmore? We can ask those kinds of questions now and make that part of the later
And
presentation.
just one quick question.
Sure.
Moving forward, there's, it's going to be more people using the app in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and less people going online. So I think that the app we should design now to be more robust as people are moving in that direction.
I hear what you're saying, but what you're talking about doing is going back to the customized approach. And every time I brought that to the board, they balked at the price.
Money.
It's very expensive to customize anything. I mean, you could, and we could have
You're gonna be
we
mad
could have
10 years from
strictly
now.
decided, I mean, we could have strictly decided that we were not going to integrate these two. We could have operated in 3 different worlds where you have rossmore.com, you have my Rossmore, and then Vermont Systems lives over here all on its own. But again, why do that? Because it becomes more difficult for the residents to find it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so, or you then are locked into only doing it through the app and not really being able to do it online. And we've got to address all of our different demographics, and not all of our residents are comfortable with apps. So
We can promote that.
yeah, let me talk with Kelsey and have her talk with the developer team.
How
on
much
that one.
longer do we have to run?
I have no idea.
How much longer?
We're getting close. Okay.
So back
Speed
up for just a
demon.
second. Can we get I want to stop calling it Vermont Systems because it's Rossmore Walnut Creek. Can we get a demo or something on that
Yes, so let me, again,
next month?
let me go back to Ann. I don't know where they are exactly in their timetable. Again, I think that because again, what I'm showing you here, right on this screen, is what a calendar looks like in Vermont Systems, but it's for somebody else.
Right.
So what we want is to really be able to show you what it's gonna look like for us. So rather than just giving you a demo that says, here's what Vermont Systems looks like, you really want, here's what Rossmore Walnut Creek's online services is gonna look like. So we wanna be able to give them enough time to build it into Vermont Systems so that what they're showing you will actually be what our residents are going to see and use. Okay, so again, this is a calendar from another group. It lists all of the events on the calendar. You just click on the event and it will open up a page where you will do your transaction, where you would then buy your tickets. So that's again, one of the features that's available with Vermont. Dwelling Live is what we're going to use to manage the guest list for the front gate. So this is where they can do their temporary guests, their permanent guests, if they've got a party attendee. And they'll fill out the form and submit it, and then that will go to the front gate. It will also allow you to send a QR code to your guest. So when the guest comes to the front gate, they hold up their phone, it's scanned, and in they go. So they don't have to wait to have a pass done. This is also a separate website. So you would have to come to Dwelling Live and log in with your email, reset your password, and come into this. We would like everything to live in one system like Vermont Systems, but right now we're not sure that the access control end of it could be done in Vermont Systems. So right now there are going to be two separate ones.
You could also do a group in here, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Phase 2. So again, I'm going to emphasize this is going to come after everything is set up and everybody is trained and we've rolled out and we're all rocking and rolling. Phase 2 starts. So this is going to be the communication platform that we're setting up for the mutuals, the clubs, and the residents. And the way that it works is it's a social platform where everything is done as a space. So you could have a club like the chess club could create their own space. The chess club board would be the moderators on that space. So they would decide which members get admitted and what sorts of features they want them to have within that space. Now we own this. We own the platform. So Javier and I can go in at any time if somebody's breaking the rules. We will send through policy to determine what the rules will be for this. We can say you're not following the rules and we can shut a space down. So we will still control this to a degree.
So I'm chess club. Is it data in and data out, or is it just read?
So no, it goes both ways.
Okay.
Once you become a member of the space,
Yes.
once you come in here, you can again set this space up for your club with your
Yes,
own
yeah,
photo,
yeah.
with your own members. And then once you become a member, you now can come in and create a post, or you can comment on a post. So it's very similar to sort of a social media platform like Facebook, where you're able to have that communication. Now, maybe you happen to belong to a club where they just want to use this to communicate, like send out
Data
alerts and
out.
messages.
Data
They
out.
will have the ability to turn off commenting. What we really want to do is give each club, each mutual, their own autonomy with this, so that they make their own decisions. And now we were coming to feedback, but you all have been doing that as we've been going along. So let's just keep it going. So here's my real question when it comes to feedback. What I want to know now is really how we want to get the community input for what they want from their website. And there's a couple ways that we could do this. We could do a town hall format where we invite everybody in. I do a presentation very similar to this, and we kind of go section by section, what do you want with each one of these? The second thing we could do would be to set up feedback groups. So I could invite a representative from every club, come in and tell us what it is you want out of my Rossmore. We could do one with the mutuals, send a representative from the mutuals, tell us what you would like with these. Or the next option would be a survey. Now, a survey becomes a little bit more complicated because we need to know what exactly we want to ask as part of that, what we're looking for feedback, because it's pretty right now wide open, right? Everything is on the table, everything can come in. Like I said, I've been collecting emails from residents throughout this process. Once we decided to do a My Rossmore, some folks have been emailing and saying, what I've heard a lot is they want this last piece, the phase 2 piece, is we're a small club, we really need help setting up a web page, or we've got this wild apricot and it's become so expensive we can't pay for it anymore. Can you help us create web pages? So that is part of our roadmap. Can't be the first part because that's going to take months and months to set up, but it's on our roadmap. It's more about what do you want right out of the gate with My Rossmore. And again, a survey can help with that, but it can also hinder in some ways because we got to know what we're asking up front from them.
So hold on. Susan had a question.
Oh, no, it was just real quick. In terms of the Fluent Community social platform. Just to clarify, that does not provide any kind of a membership feature where people would either become members and pay dues. It has none of that capacity, right?
Yes and no. So an individual club could decide to buy what's called Paymatic, which is, it attaches to Fluent Community, and now they can run their memberships and their dues through that. But that would be each individual club's choice.
My question is,
Oh, hold on, sir. Amy.
my question is, if wherever you're gonna do this, going to the community,
Right,
whatever format it is.
right.
So, we're all in the weeds here.
Mm-hmm,
A lot of the people come here, they don't know anything.
mm-hmm.
So to me, if I were doing it, first step would be telling them what we're doing, then have another environment for give us your feedback. There's almost too much between showing it all to them and then asking them for feedback. Because some of these people haven't, they don't know anything, and we see a lot.
Right.
There was a comment back here.
I'd like to offer another option.
Okay.
That could be complementary to what you talked about in terms of having a survey or a town hall. And that would be to select or ask for a group of volunteers of 8 resident members who would specialize in providing input to the design features of this, and that could potentially.
Kind of what we were.
That's what we are, sir.
That's
We
what we
are. Marketing task force recruited from the community. We need to move on. So I think what is important to me, and I'm gonna say what Amy was saying in a different way. I think a town hall, when we have something to demonstrate what is here,
Okay.
and then to work on capabilities in the future.
And questions, because it's just too much.
Yeah.
Right.
So
No, I
you're
agree.
saying- Wait, you're saying that.
Excuse me. Yeah, so, and sir, let me just say, we don't normally allow residents to speak at these
Yeah.
meetings. I allowed it, and now we're running way over time, so I've got to be very careful, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to.
So I think an overview at the town hall with an invitation to these other groups that are gonna be coming in, that's like a teaser telling them, oh, now I need your input on this bigger project that we're doing on, such as like the
The
clubs,
clubs.
the mutuals,
yeah.
and that's a,
Sure.
but I think a town hall to overview it,
give
you
them a
only
heads
gonna
up.
fit, and also, if we're looking for a larger number, the town hall is only gonna be a small piece. It's 500 people that maxed out that we can fit in the.
Well, we'll
event
do it
center.
as Zoom as well. So, but I like Amy's idea, and maybe the way we can go with this is if we do a town hall to introduce, this is what we have, kind of like we just did.
Yeah.
Right, what we just did here. And then we set up an online form where we
Yes.
allow them to give feedback kind of in specific areas, break it down and say, design, content, that kind of thing, to allow them to provide feedback. So, and you open that up, we'll run something in the newspaper that tells them where to go. We'll even provide the feedback form in it so that we get the print
Right.
folks as well. And have that come in over the course of like a month. And then we collect all of that and look for sort of the common themes. Again, we're not gonna be able to do everything for everybody. There's gonna be some.
What would your timing be on that?
Again, I would make this, I'd give them 1 month to provide
To do a
feedback.
town hall.
1 month from now. Next month.
So I'm a little concerned that things need to be developed a little bit more before we go to a town hall.
Sure.
We have
Push
to
it out.
seed Vermont systems.
Yep.
So maybe even 6 weeks from now or 2
Yep,
months from now
we
might
can do
be
that.
better to give you guys some time to develop it a little more.
We would definitely need to do it in November, though, if you want to stick with the launch timeline. And I'll just say this up front, I'm not opposed. The websites are important. If you want to delay the launch, we can delay the launch by a month or 2. We want to be careful not to delay it too much, especially from the Vermont side, because that has really key important pieces.
I think November would be perfect.
Okay.
'Cause that gives us another month to go through this again
Sure.
from the task force
And see the
standpoint
Vermont side.
and see the Vermont side, and then November for a town hall. I think
That sounds
would be
good.
Great.
All right.
And then that's the introduction.
Yeah,
To
I
say,
think we
here's-
need to say, here it is, and everybody see it.
Sure.
And then, what's your feedback?
Right.
Okay, so I'll circle back with Ann and Kelsey and see what the timeline is with Vermont Systems. Do you want that presentation to come to, do you want another meeting with the marketing task force? You want
Yes.
that to go to, okay,
Yeah.
Planning.
not a problem.
Because
Yeah,
we're
we will
kind of-
line it up
we're
for
kind of
marketing.
the Guinea pigs, when it gets closer.
Okay,
Yes.
Are you wanting a meeting in October, November?
October,
October.
For the marketing
For
task
marketing.
force.
and then November for the
But
town
at that
hall.
marketing task force, we want to see Vermont at that next one, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it has to do.
So it is gonna be
It has to do with.
yes.
and Matola
It'll be
and her team,
contingent
like, she
on
can be-
where Ann and Kelsey
Can
are
do the
with that.
presentation.
So what I'll do is I'll loop them in and include you, Deborah, and we'll try to get a date set for that in October. And then we'll circle back with marketing to find out when everybody's available.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
ran way over time.
Sorry.
Well, there was a
A lot
lot
to
tonight.
go on, a lot to
All right.
see. Well done, though, well done.
Thank
You're
you.
working hard.
We're trying.